Good evening once again, and welcome to the Marty Heiser Show. It is before Labor Day. That's why I can wear this seersucker jacket and still be fashionably in tune with everything. Now, if you're watching this on Cablevision or maybe Charter, it may be after Labor Day, and you say, wow, what a dummy. He's wearing a seersucker jacket after Labor Day. But I'm filming this before, so I just want to make that, come out first with that. Okay, I have some issues about what's going on in the world in regards to our president. And I want to preface this by saying, as if you're liberal and Democrat, I realize you're really, really smart. And I know you really care. You care from your heart about people. And if I'm conservative and Republican, I realize I'm not as smart as you guys. You guys are the ones that go to Ivy League schools and control the media, and you're the really smart guys. And I realize that your guy's in the White House now, and so by definition, anything he's doing is really smart, because all you guys are really smart. And I realize I'm just a crass Republican, and coming at it from the conservative viewpoint is really not understanding the subtle nuances of what's going on. But it's beginning to build up. We're getting to a place where we're having a crisis level of crises. And I just want to kind of go through a couple of these right now. First of all, there's some bad thinking going on. Here's one bad thought. Radical Muslims hate America because of what George W. Bush did to them. And now that Barack Obama's our president, they're gonna love us. First thing our president will need to do is he'll need to go around and do an apology tour. I don't know if we have a picture of the political cartoon, but that's what Barack Obama did. He went through, and in France he said that America has shown some arrogance. In the Muslim world, he says, we are not perfect. In an apology at the Summit of America, he says, at times we sought to dictate our terms. Then he goes to the G20 summit with the world leaders, and he says, I would like to think that my election and the early decisions that we have made, that we're starting to see some restoration of American standing in the world. And although, as you know, I always mistrust polls, international polls seem to indicate we're seeing people more hopeful about American leadership. That was Barack Obama in the full aftermath of his election in 2009. The apology tour goes on. We went off course, he said in a speech. Then the apology tour regarding France, he said, we sacrificed our value and I pledged to close Guantanamo Bay. Then he went on to the Turkish parliament where he says, our own darker periods of our history. All across the globe, our president is going apologizing for the United States. Mistakes that the CIA has made, but potentially we've made some mistakes. His remarks to the CIA employees. And then finally, apologies on Guantanamo Bay. He says, it has become a rallying cry for our enemies. The thinking is, if we just didn't have Guantanamo Bay, and if we just didn't have George W. Bush, and they realize how much I am a man of the world, and I'm going to go to Egypt, and I'm going to give a speech. And it's much like this political cartoon. He says, sorry for the United States and all the horrible, shameful history we've had, but it's okay, because I'm here now. And you got all these radical Islamists in the audience applauding. This is not good thinking. It just isn't. We pulled out of Iraq too soon. All the generals, everyone said, don't do that. Here's some other bad thinking. If we are kind and understanding to Russia, they'll be nice to us. And remember in the debate, old Barack, boy, he had some funny comments. Remember that one when he was talking to Mitt Romney, who quite accurately warned about Russia? And he said, hey, the 80s are calling and they want their foreign policy back. Yeah, that's pretty funny. And you know Hillary, she's got that reset button with the buddies there in Russia. And who can forget our beloved president kneeling down? He didn't know the mics were on. And he says, you know what, after this election, tell Vlado I'll have a little more flexibility. This isn't leadership. This is bending down to our arch enemies. This isn't trust but verify. This isn't peace through strength. This is ridiculous faculty lounge thinking. If we're just nice to the Russians, they'll be nice to us. It's not accurate. It's stupid thinking. And guess what it ends up with? Old Lotto ends up rolling frickin' tanks across the border. And if that's not good, if that's not bad enough, you got a civilian airliner, civilians, just knocked down out of the sky. Oh, but I know, the liberal Democrats, you guys are the smart guys. And it's that stupid George W. Bush when 3,000 of your fellow Americans were slaughtered in the street right down in there in Manhattan. And he deigned to say, we're going to come and we're going to kick your ass. But that was stupid. That's conservative. That's Republican. That's warmongering. That's fostering more terrorists. Well, how's this working out for anyone? This is not good thinking. It's dumb thinking. And luckily we're on television, because you're in your house, you're sitting there in your basement, maybe having a beverage. You don't got to answer to anyone. But in your heart of hearts, think this stuff through. Because these stupid ideas are killing people. These stupid ideas are putting our homeland at risk. This weak thinking, faculty lounge thinking, is causing our enemies to be delighted. We had a press conference today, and he says, I don't have a strategy for ISIS. We don't have a goddamn clue what we're going to do. That's just great. That's just leadership. Here's some more really dumb thinking. Citizens and corporations will be delighted to pay more taxes because they're good corporate citizens and they consider it a patriotic thing to do. Why, let's roll out our favorite billionaire, the guy who gave a bunch of donations to Barack Obama and his campaign. Warren Buffett. My secretary pays higher taxes than I do. It's just not right. That's right, Warren. We need to tax more. We need to tax the independent businessman more. We need to tax the people that are paying mortgages that might want to sell their house. Let's nip them for 3.4% when they sell their house. Just because they got too much money. Have you seen the disparity of money? We need to redistribute the wealth. Just ask the billionaire. Well, guess what? Warren Buffett, he goes off and buys Burger King. I actually went to a Burger King, fine American company. It used to be. Guess what? Warren Buffett ends up buying Burger King and moving the whole kit and caboodle up to that great tax haven in the north, home of hockey and Molson beer, Canada. I mean, how bad does it got to get when the United States, you have to flee high taxation into Canada? Canada? I mean, I married a Canadian, so there's some talent up there. I'm not going to argue it. But really, has it gotten that bad that companies are leaving and moving their headquarters to Canada? And Barack Obama's like, what the hell, Warren? I mean, I thought, it was patriotic for you to pay higher taxes. Well, guess what? Go back to the faculty lounge, because you're just not living in the real world. You're just not living in the real world internationally. You're just not living in the real world when it comes to the economy. You don't know the first thing about what it means to meet a payroll. You don't know the first thing how competitive it is out there to make a buck. All you can think about is the 1%. They got all the money. We need to redistribute that money. How's that working out for everyone? 3.9% the economy shrunk in the first quarter, and now we're looking at 1.5% growth in the economy. Anyone else sick of this economy? Anyone else feeling like, what the hell, we're Americans, we're supposed to have free market capitalism that's working, and we're getting stabbed in the back at every turn. Now they're unleashing the EPA because coal's bad. Yeah. Go pay $5 a gallon gas and see how that works out. I'm almost done, but I could go on. Some other really, really bad ideas. Let's raise taxes so everyone pays their fair share. Let's have the government invest in new jobs. That's a bunch of malarkey. Anytime you hear the government's going to invest in something, hold on to your wallet because they're coming after you. Here's a really bad idea. Let's target people that disagree with us politically, and let's use the most powerful arm of government, the IRS. Why don't we do that? The latest on our friend Lois Lerner, we've been using this picture so much it's got water stains on it. Well, guess what? Old Lois Lerner lost all her emails. And guess what? There's 80,000 employees in the IRS, and the Congress wanted to investigate, and only 6 of them had their emails lost. Those were the 6 they were looking for. But why not a BlackBerry? What happened to Lois Lerner's BlackBerry? You'll never believe it. This is unbelievable. The coincidence is just incredible. After 2 days after the Congress said they wanted that, guess what happened? The BlackBerry, everything got erased. It just happened. That's really good. I'm almost done. BlackBerry scrub, Lois Lerner, and then you got immigration. What I'm about to show you, if there's children around, you may want to move them away, because there's a hand gesture in this next picture, but it's so appropriate. It's our immigration policy at the south of the border. And what we're going to say is, hey, there's poor people all over the world, and gosh, they're having a really hard time of it. But you know what? We're going to open up our arms. If you can get across the Rio Grande River, we're going to give you anything you want. You know why? Because we care. We're liberal Democrats. We want what's best for the world. Don't you want to have the whole world come to your door just because they need to? And there are these drug dealers. They also do sexual trafficking, and they're running these people over in jet skis. You can't make this stuff up. They're coming over in jet skis. Now, my mother immigrated to this country. Heck, my wife immigrated to this country. I love immigrants. If it wasn't for immigrants, this economy would be in big trouble. But you don't just willy-nilly open up the border because of some weak thinking concept that, geez, these people are in trouble and they need to come. We're in trouble. There's bad thinking. Radical Muslims just don't like us because we're mean to them. Russia will be really good, and they're not going to invade another country if we're just nice to them. Citizens just really want to pay higher taxes because they're so happy with the government and all they do for it. Guess what? Money's going to go where it can be most efficiently used. And raising taxes, targeting your fellow Americans, opening up the southern border, having the NSA spy on journalists that you just don't like. There's a lot of bad thinking going on out there. And in your heart of hearts, because I know there's really only like 7 or 8 conservative Republicans left in this state. I get it. I'm the skunk at the garden party, and everyone else is a lot smarter, and this is all great. But in your heart of hearts, think this stuff through, because this stuff is killing people, and it's not leading this country to anything like the prosperity that we could be having for ourselves and our future generations. That's my rant. I feel so bad for the people that are sitting at this table, because right now they're a bit stunned. And I just want to say that the political views expressed by the host of this show are not necessarily that of our guests, of the people in the studio, anyone around here, or pretty much anyone within a 500-mile radius. So don't let whatever I said reflect on our guests. But I am delighted to have Nancy Guberti here with your 2 sons, Mark and Michael. And thank you so much for sitting through my rants. I just had to get it off my chest.
I'm glad you did.
Okay. Now, you are a bit of a celebrity in a couple different realms. If I can just set the table, and then I'll be quiet for a while. You were very involved in Wall Street, had a great guns career going, Lehman Brothers, although they didn't work out so well, but Goldman Sachs and a couple other places. And then you took an interest in your son's health, Mark, who had some kind of a liver ailment. The doctors couldn't seem to help. And we'll pick it up from there. And what did you do?
Okay. So I went, so I was at Goldman, and I was traveling 4 days a week, and I loved my job. I thought it was one of the greatest places to work.
Goldman Sachs not a bad place to work.
Yeah, it was
It's not
really
easy
good.
to get a job there, but go ahead.
No. And, it's like the golden handcuffs. You really don't want to leave either. So I had my 2 kids, and it was, had my dad watching them, so everything was great. He cooked and cleaned, so it was a great benefit. And then everything started to become very challenging when my son Mark was, he stopped growing. So he was born at 9 pounds, 4 ounces. He was a healthy kid. And then something just went wrong. Okay. And he developed a liver issue. But I went to conventional doctors and we ran the regular blood test and no one could find out what was wrong with him. But I knew something was wrong. He never slept, he screamed, he cried, he had eczema all over, and he would vomit bile. At that time, I didn't know.
Now, give me an age. How old are you now, Mark?
16.
And you're a picture of health at this point, growing like a weed. But how old was he when some of these illnesses?
About 6 months.
6 months. Oh, okay. So this is very okay.
So I did my research, and I would always ask, is there anything natural? You know, you're throwing medicines at me to give him, and topicals for whatever, you know, rash would come up, and how do we help with the liver? And, you know, they were just saying, we don't know. And I said, well, how did this happen? You know, he was healthy.
Yeah.
How does this occur? So,
I mean, from a mother's perspective, if there's anything wrong with your child, you want to know. You want, how do we make this better? And you were coming up with not getting the answers from traditional doctors and medicine.
Nothing at all. So, and I was going to them because that wasn't my expertise at the time.
Yeah.
So it was empty-handed. And he was just getting sicker and sicker, and they stopped measuring his head and stopped weighing him. And I knew that wasn't a good sign. So I really thought, you know, I was at the crossroads of my life. Like, how do I step in to help him? And I said, you know, I feel that something's driving me to look at food. So I did some research and I found a doctor in Pennsylvania who was an alternative doctor. He's an MD, he was an MD, he passed away since, and he would run this functional medicine lab work. And basically that shows you how does your body function and where are the imbalances. So I thought, why not? We've tried everything else.
And you're taking him as a child, 6 months, a year old. Okay.
He was tiny, you know? So we took him and they took a ton of blood, and I was like, oh my God, I hope this is the right idea, because you feel awful, you know? And the test came back and showed that he couldn't break down ammonia and his liver couldn't process it. So your liver has detoxification pathways 1 and 2. And where's the ammonia coming from? I'm not giving him ammonia. And they're like, no, but everything we eat turns into a chemical. You know, so apples turn into malic acid, and bananas are part of the histamine family. So they actually do cause inflammation for some people who can't break that compound down. And then there's gluten, and then, you know, everything turns into something.
So you enter into a world that you were doing spreadsheets and what to invest in and Wall Street and all that, and now your child is literally at death's door. Is that too melodramatic?
It was very bad.
It didn't sound good.
No.
And so you went in to study that, and then what was the answer? What did you find?
Well, I just thought, if this is going to be long term, or, you know, if it's something in his food, I have to learn what to feed him. So I have to understand food chemistry. So I went and got my master's in nutrition and emphasis on food chemistry. And at the time, I found researchers in Europe that were working on the liver. So I really wanted to work with the PhDs, not the doctors. The PhDs are doing the research. And the doctors just, you know, they learn what they do in school, and then if they're going for extra education, then maybe they'll hear. So a combination of schoolwork and research brought me to a trial and error, and I basically told my husband, I'm going to try this. What's the worst it could do? So I put together a food plan, and from throwing up every 3 weeks bile, it went every 6 weeks. And then it went to every 8 weeks. And, you know, he was very yellow, his eyes were yellow, and, you know, his lips would turn white when he got sick. So we saw that with the food, he was starting to get better. And every night he would be awake, but he was actually sleeping. So we sought to see. It was a journey. It was, you know, nothing overnight, because the body is resilient if you step in at the right time.
I mean, did any of the doctors say that this is a problem, but he'll grow out of it?
No. They had no clue.
They didn't have any clue. They said, we have no program we can put him on, no medication that we can think of.
Right. They didn't have any clue, and they basically made it even worse by saying, you know, ammonia that goes to the brain, we can't really say what would happen.
So, happy outcome, though.
Yeah, so nothing short of a miracle, you know, with a bunch of different methods.
Mark's great. He just sits there and smiles and says, here I am, it all worked out good. Okay, so now for your life, I mean, in the rearview mirror went Goldman Sachs, and then you I mean, if you look up Nancy Guberti in the internet and some of the publications she's been in, television programs, this became a passion of yours.
Right. So I had headhunters call me and say, you know, how's your son? He's good now? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, you want to come back?
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'll come back, but not in the same capacity.
Okay.
I'm coming back, and I designed a corporate wellness program.
Okay.
So I went back to my financial institutions, and I said, I want to go with the head guys,
Okay.
and they threw in a token woman,
Okay.
you know, the head executives, and teach them how they could lead a healthy lifestyle while they play hard and work hard.
Okay.
So that was, you know, what
And
I was
they bought
doing
it. They went for it.
Yeah, they went for it
Okay.
because they knew my reputation,
Okay.
you know, on Wall Street. So I did that for many years, and then I was going to head up a division at Lehman Brothers. We know what happened with Lehman Brothers.
Yeah.
So then, lo and behold, I had referrals. I never advertised, and I had just people come in, and then they were bringing their sick kids because they heard my story. And I then were dealing with a lot of special needs kids because
Yeah, that was one thing I read too. You tie in Alzheimer's, you tie in autism, and it seems like the panacea, the answer to all this is proper nutrition and lifestyle issues and things like that. And I get a little nervous about that. I mean, I'm worried because, I mean, especially the autism thing and the immunization shots and things like that. Where do you come on that, and is this universally accepted and applauded, or where do you come down on that?
Well, if you look at any special needs or not,
Yeah.
you know, adults or children, what's the core? You know, we understand that the core for exercise is our stomach, right?
Right.
That's the core, crunches and all that. But when we talk about our health, what we're putting in our body is what has to nourish our cells and our mitochondrial, the powerhouse of our cells. And we have trillions of cells in our body communicating with one another. So if a family thinks that Cheez-Its is the protein source of their meal,
Right.
that's a problem.
So ketchup isn't a vegetable?
Yeah, I mean, so if we're having ketchup, go with the organic one that has sugar as opposed to high fructose corn syrup that's genetically modified with mercury, which is a neurotoxin.
Okay, so
you know,
not to get too deep into the weeds, but you say that there really is a cause and effect with your nutrition. You saw it in your son when he had this very dire liver situation. And then you kind of are extrapolating that out to everyone. And I mean, if you read your thing, one article will be it'll improve your marriage. The next article will be it'll improve your sex life. Nuts, nuts solves depression. Continue learning. You enhance your learning. By the way, this is a live call-in show, so there might be a call. Caller, do you have something to add? And do you eat whole foods? And do you feel good?
The Whole Foods?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say you definitely feel good.
Excellent. Well, do you have something? Do you have a question for the guest?
Oh, no, I must have called them at the wrong time. I was looking for talk about education.
Ed, if you want to talk about Common Core, please call back in about 15 minutes, okay? Please do.
Good.
Thank you so much. Next guest is going to talk about Common Core. Yeah, we talked about that. I don't like that. I'm an angry man. And part of it's just making me angry. Is you're making me eat broccoli and asparagus, and you're taking away my Easter candy.
What did you eat tonight?
What I ate tonight, I had a grilled cheese sandwich and a cup of coffee around 5 o'clock. And now I'm starving to death. I want a raisin bagel at the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru.
Right.
So is that bad?
Yep.
See, that's what I'm saying. I want to end up like more. Okay. Moving ahead, so you got this nutritional thing, and then you got into a very positive parenting approach.
Right.
And we're delighted to have your two sons, and that's why we insisted that they come on, because you have a very positive parenting approach, and then that segued into your entrepreneurial, what'd you call it, boot camp? Boot camp for the summer. So for the people that didn't see that show, can you just tell us about what the entrepreneurial boot camp was, where it was, what it took place, and what happened this summer?
Teenager Entrepreneur, the boot camp, was held at Fordham University this past summer for teenagers who wanted to do 4 things or run through 4 pillars of our program. The first being passion, where you identify the loves in your life and what you really want to pursue as a career or otherwise. And then you go from passion and then eventually funneling down to one key desire into product. So you take what's in your mind and you make it real.
Okay.
Online product like a training course or a membership site, or a physical product like a t-shirt or a merchandise roll.
Okay.
You go from product because you could have the best services, the best products, the best t-shirts, and if no one knows about you, you can't elevate the lives of others with them.
Okay.
So you got to promote yourself.
This is very free market capitalism. I like it. I'm encouraged by the youth. Go ahead.
You use social media.
Is there any part of this where you go to the government and claim you're a victim and ask for money and a handout and food stamps?
Not that I know of.
That isn't part of your curriculum?
No.
Okay, I'm interrupting. Go ahead.
You use social media like Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. When we're very popular on Twitter. My brother and I, we total have over 100,000 Twitter followers.
Okay.
And you use that to promote your services and your products, which eventually leads into the final pillar, which is propel. Propel, where you have to we send off the students in the motivation that they are the future of the business industry.
Okay.
And we teach this at Fordham University over the summer
So this summer, because I saw the video, I saw you up there with your overhead projector and the whole thing. Give me the top two, people that you taught and what businesses they were starting, what passions they had. Give me two examples.
Well, one student was named Matt, and he was very interested in becoming an adventurer / he wanted to help his grandfather sell certain items that he had, like Coach belts. He had his grandfather had access to a lot of those.
Oh, okay.
And he set up an eBay account where now, when we taught him how to sell and price your products and how to take pictures of them so they look attractive and favorable, he got his father to A, get rid of the clutter, and B, make it lucrative at the same time.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
And tying into the World Wide Web. What were some of the highlights for you this summer with the entrepreneurial?
Well, the highlights were, for the first time, we got to talk to people in our own age. Like for the social media, we would normally talk with like adults who would share our articles and start conversations with us about business, social media, and blogging. But we got the opportunity to talk to the younger generation and show them that it is possible to be a successful entrepreneur at a young age. So the ability that my brother and I had to bring in the hope and the possibility into those youth's lives was just truly incredible.
That's great. I'm just in the back of my mind, I'm thinking Steve Jobs started Apple Computer where? In his garage.
Wow.
He started in California, but it was in his garage. Same kind of thing. And regardless of my initial rant here, this still is the land of opportunity. And if we can get some clear thinking going on in government and they allow us the freedom, it's still an opportunity, to go out there. I want to close with one thing that you talked about, which I thought was good. And I don't mean to minimize all it's very good. But one thing you talked about, and a lot of what you write about and talk about is positive parenting, and these are Exhibit A and Exhibit B of all of that. But you talked a little bit about sports and how sports really can propel. And you said interest in sports may help your children grow academically and socially. And you quoted someone saying, research indicates that children who play sports are confident in themselves, are more comfortable with constructive criticism, and work well in groups. And you mentioned too, it's not just, you don't got to be the star quarterback of the football team, but an interest in sports and a passion in sports, even if it's the Mets, who have not done very well since 1990, 84? Yeah, 85. Yeah, 69 was a pretty good year too. But just talk a little bit about that as we close.
Well, it's great if kids could get involved in sports and just try. First of all, they could do individual or the group sports, but they have to get involved. And that also, if they're involved in sports, hopefully they'll eat healthier. But that raises endorphins, and that should make them feel more confident and happier. So it's win-win for everyone.
Yeah, in our town in Ridgefield, Connecticut, sports is a big thing. But sometimes it gets a bad, this whole town is just about sports all the time. But I do think that, as a mother, your kids are wired up differently. I don't know if we had 3 kids. One was pretty into sports, the other not so much, and the other could not be bothered with sports. So you kind of go with the passions that your kids bring. But I think there's a lot of benefits of sports, involvement.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm sorry if my rant, went on and on and on. I appreciate you coming in very much, and you should be very proud of your 2 boys. It's living proof. You're feeding them the right stuff, and you're definitely parenting the right way.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much for coming in.
Okay.
Really appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Okay, as this rollicking show continues, we are very excited to be discussing Common Core. Now, the Lieutenant Governor on the Republican side, the nominee for Lieutenant Governor, Carolyn, help me out, it's Heather Summers. Heather Summers. She came out very much against this whole concept of Common Core. And our guests are going to be joining us right now will be able to further define what Common Core is. The best description I've heard of Common Core, if you like what Obamacare has done for healthcare, then that's kind of the federalization, the controlling of education from the top by setting the curriculum, setting the demands, having it tied to money. People are getting a little fed up with this. Even friends of ours, we've talked to them about the curriculum and the constraints and the somehow trying to ice out the parents. And I'm not talking about your kid in college. I'm talking about, 3rd, 4th grade kids that they're told, don't show your parents this homework. Don't take that test home to them because they wouldn't understand. But I want to thank Cheryl Hill. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Cort Wrotnowski and Alan Shaw. Thank you so much and appreciate you coming in again.
Yes.
I know we could probably do a month of shows on Common Core.
You got that right.
But Cort, why don't you give us a 30-second definition of what we're talking about and what is the problem with it as you see it?
Okay, well, it's very, has many faces, but the basic point is that Common Core has been sold as a standard curriculum intended to be applied nationally. It's part of what's essentially a 6-year rollout program, starting with changing the ways in which math and reading are taught in the lower grades.
Okay.
At the same time, like 10th, 11th grade, they've sought to change how English is taught by introducing more fiction reading and de-emphasizing the classics. Those are the main attributes. It's been sold as something that's going to make kids career and college ready. There's a phony story that's since been dropped about it being state-led. The other phony claim is that it's supported by research, and there's no research whatsoever that supports it except for a few what we'll call flimsy studies. And I know I'm forgetting some other things here in the heat of the moment. These fundamental claims about Common Core, where they assert that they're bringing higher standards. The idea is that higher standards would cause students to perform better, that the nature of what is being taught is more rigorous. And those are the things that they hang their hats on the most when they're trying to justify how they're teaching, what they're teaching.
But the result of all this, with an overbearing elite government at some distant capital coming through and trying to micromanage all the school districts in the country and force this down their throat.
That part is indirect. Okay, again, there are these word games and weasel words that get thrown around all the time. And just to put it very simply, the way this has been sold to us, all right, is that they talk a lot about the standards, and then teachers are free to design the curriculum that would match the standards, and then to make sure that the standards and the curriculum are in alignment with each other, we'll have standardized testing, which in Connecticut is the SBAC test. Now, I don't know if I can prattle on here, but the SBAC test is a scam.
Cort, that's all we're about here on the Marty Heiser Show,
Okay.
is prattling on. You've hit the nail on the head, so prattle away.
Okay, so, sorry? Yeah, so SBAC is one of 2 testing consortia of which the states are members. There's approximately 23 states in PARC, which is the other one, and then the balance are in SBAC, of which Connecticut is a member. If I may here, in October of 2013, you had a woman named Beth Dimino. I believe it's D-I-M-I-N-O. Definitely got to Google her. There's a 2-minute YouTube video of her speaking with an auditorium absolutely filled with parents, packed to the ceiling. and she is laying into the Commissioner of Education in New York. His name is John King.
Oh, hold on a second. Hold on.
It was the most astonishing display of parents angry at Common Core, angry
what
at the
state
testing.
was this in?
New York,
Okay.
just over the border.
All right.
And you can be sure that Malloy and Pryor saw that video, okay? They said, we do not want this to happen in Connecticut. We do not want to have auditoriums filled with angry parents. So the way they've managed SBAC is to not make it official.
Okay.
That's how they avoid getting, that's why it was that way. Last year is testing the testing, not the children. That's they're now talking about doing it for another 2 years.
Okay.
So they can
And by the
avoid
way,
this.
in New York, the teachers aren't exactly embracing Common Core either, are they?
No,
like some
no,
of the
they're not.
testing of the teachers and stuff.
It's a mixed bag because you have the New York State Teachers Union, which has passed a resolution to reject Common Core, yet you have the New York City chapter of the AFT still for Common Core, even though the Chicago chapter of the AFT voted against it.
My guess is, though, as I look at politicians coming out of this, you have Jindal down in Louisiana. It seems like Common Core isn't exactly the most popular girl at the dance.
No, but Jindal is a special case. We were having a discussion
Okay,
about
hold on one second. Caller,
And-
caller, do you have something to add or a question regarding Common Core?
Well, actually, I was just kind of listening to your conversation, and you were talking about how it wasn't quite popular in New York. And I guess as a Connecticut parent, I've been following, I think, this reform very diligently because we really feel like it affected our daughter and the manner the curriculum and the methods they were using to teach her. And it's really been like peeling an onion and scraping to try to find the information. And I heard you just mention New York. I know last week or the week before there was a historic petition. I think it was something like 62,000 parents, teachers, grandparents, as a grassroots effort, signed petitions to get on the ballot to have a Stop Common Core ballot.
They broke history
And
with that petition.
you don't hear about that. We're just right next door in Connecticut, and we're not hearing about that on the media, and parents don't hear about that. And I know in my district, parents are still being told that the majority of educators and parents want this. And nationwide, there was just a poll in the Washington Post saying support is plummeting.
Yeah.
But I am still hearing
Now,
that.
do you have students in school, children in school?
Yes.
Have you had firsthand experience with Common Core and not being able to see their tests or their homework and feel somewhat alienated from the educational experience of your children?
I absolutely do, and I can tell you a comment when we tried to get our daughter's educational records, as we were just trying to see kind of what other tests, because
Now, this would be your daughter in college somewhere, right?
my daughter's in third.
Third grade. Third grade. You're
Yes.
not allowed to
Yes,
see your daughter.
third
Yeah.
grade.
Well, that's
It's
pretty
third grade.
intrusive of a mother wanting to know what your third grade daughter is doing. Don't you realize that the government, Big Brother, the bureaucrats will take care of this?
That's exactly the impression, and I have to tell it. Well, one, thank you, Marty, so much for covering this, because as a parent, it's just not being covered. Even in the debate last night, I think maybe once or twice they actually used the word Common Core.
Yeah.
But we had to, when we finally got this list of this massive amount of standardized testing that we were never ever told was even happening, our principal had told us, we don't like to tell parents about the standardized tests because they just don't get it.
Great.
And my husband and I looked at each other, and it was amazing. And this is what is kind of being kept from parents. And this reform movement has been around for years now, and parents still are not aware of it, because I'm guessing what happened in our district is happening all over, which is that the districts are referring you to the same sites, like the main Common Core sites that were created and developed by the people who created Common Core and have a vested interest in not, putting the truth out there. And
It's so interesting because what you're saying right now is the exact same. I mean, there's a friends of ours in Ridgefield, Connecticut. same experience, and they insist. I mean, these are high-powered people. They insisted to meet the superintendent, and the same pushback, maybe a little bit more, I don't know, sugar-coated. Same pushback. It basically, shut up, don't bother us. You don't understand it. We're going to take care of your kids. It's infuriating.
Yes, there's a very, and you read about it now more and more, which is this kind of, and the ironic thing is, as we started to research this, because we saw how much it affected our daughter, as we researched more, we found that the people who were making these decisions at an administrative or legislative level had no professional teaching experience and were not in the education field.
Yeah.
And it like Stephen Pryor, for example, I mean, it stymies me how that could be okay.
Yeah.
Yet those are the elitists who were telling us, the state of Connecticut, all these other parents, that, we know what's best for your kids.
Listen,
we know better than you, and if you don't get this reform, you're just not bright enough to get it.
Yeah.
And it's crumbling, and they are still trying to piece it together.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you, sharing your perspective. I really do. Thank you so much for calling.
Thank you, Marty. Thanks so much.
Okay.
For her comment, there's only one response. They will be held to pay.
Okay, Cheryl, you were pointing to this. What can this?
Well, the point that I'd like to reiterate from the caller is that she specifically thanked you for covering this, and I think that what happens as a parent is that I'm a good parent. I'm involved in my child's life and his school. There's nothing really happening in the media for the last couple of years to shed light and unveil of what's really happening here. Nothing coming home from the schools. So the point is that the parents must be proactive. They need to do reading on their own and seek out factual information from credible sources that have not received money to support this. Another amazing opportunity will be to come to this event, which is going to be a statewide event. This will be your best opportunity to come and hear from the experts, to come and hear from an educational civil rights attorney, have a chance to ask your questions as well. And that's going to be on Sunday, October 5th from 10 to 1 at Black Rock State Park in Watertown, Connecticut. Again, you need to learn more and advocate for your child and opt out.
And CTagainstCommonCore.org is their website. We can put that up. Caller, do you have something to add on this?
Yes, I would just like the reaction of any one of your the people there, because I love what they're saying. What is their reaction to, I'll put it nicely, the demise of Stephen Pryor? The fact that he is now going to explore other entities in his life.
Interesting.
Another way to say fired.
Right, but what's interesting
All right, thanks for the call.
What's interesting
for
there
our vast viewing audience, what the heck is she? Who are we talking about?
Okay, what
here?
she's referring to is that there was just a press conference held that Malloy just praised Stephen Pryor up and down for his wonderful service and for rolling out these wonderful reforms, Common Core, and congratulating him on a job well done. However, Stephen Pryor will not be returning as the head of the State Board of Education. In other words, what happened is there's a lot of conflict and right now surrounding Stephen Pryor, and it would behoove the Malloy administration to remove him, and that's what's happening.
And he is Common Core's flag waver.
Yeah, and he is involved right now. There's a pending FBI investigation, and this is all surrounding Connecticut educational choices. And it's time for parents to understand what's happening under the current administration, the current reforms, and your children are wrapped up in this, and this is not in their best interest.
Well, I know the lieutenant governor candidate on the Republican ticket has come out strong against Common Core. I don't know what Tom Foley is, but
Tom Foley is vaguely riding the fence so that he can maintain voters.
Right.
Come on, Tom!
Right.
For the love of God, don't let me get the rubber chicken out again. For the love of God,
what he has said in his
up.
educational plan is that he would implement it for some districts. However, if you know anything about Common Core, you know that the way it is written, it is to be accepted in its entirety. There is no flexibility. And so he either doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's trying to pull one over on the parents and maintain the voters.
Come on, Tom, take a stand.
Well,
you can do this. Mark, Alan, your thoughts?
I was going to say there's two things. One, I won't look a gift horse in the mouth, and I'll say it's great to see Stephen Pryor leaving, because he has been one of the chief flag wavers, as you put it, of Common Core in Connecticut. Under his leadership, the State Board of Education came up with a plan to tell parents that it was illegal to opt out of SBAC tests. And if they said, excuse me, you're mistaken, it's not illegal. Oh, yes, it is. And he's given directives to local Board of Educations that they are to be told up to 4 times that it's illegal. So at some point, as a parent, you're going to have to look at your superintendent of schools or your principal and say, you can start with, I believe you're mistaken or you're incorrect, but eventually you're going to have to say you're a liar.
And
fact of the
Stephan
matter
Pryor
is
now, Stephan Pryor is being replaced by someone who is a teacher. And so you have people saying, yes, it's a teacher, she'll have our best interest at heart, but she's with AFT, which is all Common Core and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation money.
The insidious thing about this
continues.
The insidious thing about this too is, okay, you're trying to pay your mortgage, get the snow plowed, get your kids off to school, buy them the new jackets they want, and everything else. And you don't necessarily want to go trouncing down to the grade school and rock the boat for your little Susie and Michael
you don't have
who's
a choice.
in school. I know, but I mean, it's a little intimidating for parents.
It is.
So, caller, do you have something to add?
Yes, I was just going to say that I believe 12 states have already opted out of Common Core, but
how many was that? How many?
12 states, maybe. I'm not 12, but I could be wrong. But what I heard, the really tough juggernaut in this whole thing is that all the textbooks being printed are Common Core compliant.
Yeah.
So even if you opt out of Common Core, all the textbooks that are available for your child's school are being published with the Common Core intent. So then where do you get textbooks as a state or as districts? I mean, if say you don't want this thing, but then where do you go for your educational materials? Because the whole country is collapsing behind this awful program.
Which to me sounds
my
like...
question is, what do they think about that? I mean, how do you handle that?
Yeah, please. Yeah, thank you for the call. Go right ahead.
Yeah, there's a web, I forget the name of the website, but it consolidates information on all the educational publishers in America.
Will there be a link on this?
We'll have to find the link. I'll have to dig it up.
Yeah.
But in round numbers, there's about 400 publishers of educational information in America, from the big guys to the specialty shops. And this website breaks them down into 3 groups: those who are Common Core aligned, those who use some Common Core and don't, and those who completely avoid Common Core altogether in the curriculum that they provide. So it's not quite as dire as she makes it out.
Wow.
You have to become a smart consumer.
Well, look, I don't mean to be an alarmist, but to me, I see a pattern with this government, with this federal government.
Yes.
When it comes to your health care, let us figure out if you really need the hip replacement. How's that? You're 76 and a half years old. Well, my graph says you really don't need that hip replacement because your life expectancy, just waddle around for a while. Here's a bottle of painkillers. All of a sudden the federal government's coming between you and your doctor. Now the federal government's coming between you and your child and its education.
Right, and it's affecting your parental rights. When they're misleading you, when the state is misleading you about your parental rights, and I tried to opt out, and I found the form that they were using, a suggested protocol put out by the state, where they are to tell you 3 times that the test is mandatory and that parents are violating their rights. And I testified to the State Board of Ed about that, and that's on YouTube. If you look up on YouTube, Connecticut Parent Common Core. But again, you'll find a lot of information on the website, ConnecticutAgainstCommonCore.org. You can go there to register to continually get updated information and also get the opt-out forms. That's really important.
Wow. And these are all links on CTAgainstCommonCore.org.
Right,
that's a good place to start.
Right, we're in the process of building and adding a lot of stuff there. One of the other things that we're working on is going to be a survey that we're going to take of all the candidates to find out where they stand on Common Core, and then we're going to have also like a candidate database and contact information for everybody who's running for office.
Okay.
So hopefully this stuff
I mean,
will be available.
you come out against this because it's the right thing to do. It's this insidious thing that I think, my sense of it is opposition to it is growing. It's not decreasing.
Yeah.
The more you know, the less you like. So just callously, politically, it would seem like this train's leaving the station, I'd jump on.
Well, this also comes back to your earlier rant about bad thinking. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, you have another poster child here for bad thinking.
I gotta add another chapter. I need to print some pictures. Give me some pictures of bad thinking.
But that other poster child is Daniel Malloy. He's, quintessential example of bad thinking.
Well, when you're not willing to look at any of the information coming out that says this could be harmful to children's health, when this has been called cognitive child abuse, and you're not willing to say, you know what, wait a minute, let's just put the brakes on and think about this. What is that?
Yeah.
No,
And so that's, you make a good point.
No, I'll tell you exactly what it is. That's wanting the teachers union to both pony up for your campaign and vote for you.
However, he's dismantling the teachers unions as well.
Well, there's
if you
growing
don't
opposition to Common Core. It includes the teachers unions and some of their.
That's because as the teachers unions found out, they were all about. Trust me, most of the teachers' unions were all about one big federal curriculum that is run by one big federal board of education, where the government is mother, the government is father, trust the government.
Right.
Only then they found out that the teacher evaluations were going to be part of it. And remember that the people that give your kids the tests don't believe that tests are a fair way of evaluating their performance.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, when they found out that their jobs might be dependent on how well your kids did on this test, that kids are failing in droves,
Yeah.
Teachers union said, hey, wait a minute, this Common Core thing, I think we got to look into this a little bit.
What you said, the New York Teachers Union decided, let's postpone it for 5 years.
Well, the Chicago Teachers Union they've stopped accepting money from Gates.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
If you follow the money is advice that I received early on. Follow the money, and you will see how a lot of this is connected. You'll find to a lot of your TV stations, to your newspapers. That's why Common Core has been around for 4 years, and we know so very little about it. You don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Well, the one thing, the common experience from Common Core has been this insidious separating your child from the parent. And
exactly.
I don't know, I could be wrong, but it seems like school districts that have had good results, it was all because of parental involvement in your kids' education. And that's a big deal. What are you studying? You're reading Huckleberry Finn, you're studying World War II and the Treaty of Versailles.
But now they're doing things where you go to your Board of Education and you voice your concerns, backed by your research that you're handing out to each one, and they can interrupt you and say, this is not relevant. Or then you can go back again, and we've been requesting for 7 months that this be put on their agenda. It's the biggest education reform in our lifetime, affecting every child, teacher, and parent. They won't put it on the agenda. And now my Board of Ed, and that's New Milford Board of Ed, has now said that we can only talk about things on the agenda. So we're getting stonewalled. And
what are they afraid of?
Exactly.
Cora, do you have something to add?
The truth.
Yes. Now, Marty, I'm going to put you on the spot. You're in a position of the Board of Finance.
Yes.
Our superintendent, who everybody wanted to bring back for another year, is a staunch advocate of Common Core.
Yes.
It's in her blood.
You're talking about Deb Lowe, the superintendent of...
Gave her a $15,000 bonus to come back.
Right.
Where's your platform for speaking up against Deborah Lowe? Take care.
Okay. I'm telling you, this live television is a bitch. No, sorry. So to speak. No, she brings up a good point. I'm on the Board of Finance in the town of Ridgefield, and our superintendent is tacitly in favor of Common Core, and I actually did bring it up when we talked to them, well, a lot, but especially during the budget season. It's an $82 million budget. And I asked them about Common Core, and I shared with her some of the concerns that other students, parents of students in Ridgefield have had. her response to me was pretty much everything the Common Core is asking to be done, we have already been doing it. So there wasn't this big change. I'm just saying that was the response. Don't shoot the messenger.
Everybody's telling you
if
there's
it's
no
something that
change
you're
coming.
already doing, then why do it and give away local control? Why do it and sacrifice
her
our
feedback
parental
was
rights?
that they weren't necessarily giving away local control. And I asked them specifically, is there money involved here? Like if you don't follow this curriculum or these outcomes, that there's federal dollars that we're going to lose? And her answer to me was no. Now maybe that's just Ridgefield. Our school budget is pretty much raised locally. We don't get that 1% from the state or something.
You don't give money to Hartford?
No, but for example, Ridgefield, maybe 1 or 2% of our $82 million budget comes from the state. In Bridgeport and some other places, it's 80 or 85% comes from the state. So when the state cuts money to education, it's once again the inner cities that get hurt the most.
Now, in the places where they would be losing funding, you'll also find that it's very hard to come by cost analysis for Common Core. What is it costing?
Yeah.
So in my town, where they just closed an elementary school, they said it was because of declining enrollment, which is debatable, and cost. Now, all of their research, all of their documentation and big glossies were about the cost. So let's talk about the cost. When I asked if we weren't paying for Common Core, could we keep the school open? That's when I was shut down and said it was irrelevant. Well, it's coming out of the same education budget.
Yeah.
So I think that it's not only relevant, but we have to talk about it. And I've been requesting a cost analysis, and it's nowhere to be found. So a lot of the numbers are hiding, and even if we were to lose, if we were receiving funding, and we were to lose any of that, we would still be better ahead financially. I'm not even talking about children's well-being.
Right.
Or the whole point of education. We would still be financially better off.
Lightning round. And by the way, we want to plug this ctagainstcommoncore.org. They're having a large event on Sunday, October 5th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can come there. You're not charging admission or something like that.
There's no admission. We are grateful if anyone would like to donate a few dollars that we can use towards some of our supplies and expenses.
You're a nonprofit organization?
No.
We are not a nonprofit.
Okay,
but
all the information is on that website.
Right.
Okay, lightning round, Alan. Last thoughts, and we're going to go down the line.
All right. Well, you brought up about the 1% in Ridgefield versus the 85% in Bridgeport.
As far as federal and state money for their local budgets.
And first of all, I should point out that Connecticut has applied for the federal money and been turned down, but has still bought into the federal plan of Common Core.
Okay.
But even if we're just talking about state money, if Ridgefield lost that 1% of your education budget, don't get me wrong, you'd have to make some cuts, but you could weather a 1% loss pretty easily.
Right.
If Bridgeport lost 85% of their budget, what happens to Bridgeport Public Schools? And we've already seen the state come in and try to illegally take over the Bridgeport school system.
Cort, 10 seconds? This could be asking him something he just physically can't do.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I'm working on a piece, Common Core, the public identity crisis.
All right.
Okay, there's a psychological analysis.
Okay.
To do
And you can get that on the website.
Yeah, it's
We'll have that there.
All right.
public versus loss of rights.
Excellent. Thank you. Cheryl, thank you
Okay,
so much
quick-
for coming in. Appreciate your passion on Common Core. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week at this same time. And I really don't know what we're going to be talking about. Heaven knows what's going to break out in the next 7 days. Good night, and thank you for joining us.